The diner was half empty that rainy afternoon, but for Clara, it felt like the busiest day of her life. Plates clattered, coffee brewed, and her sneakers squeaked slightly against the tile floor as she moved from table to table with quiet determination. No one noticed the tiny silver pendant she wore every day, a delicate heart-shaped charm that never left her neck. It was old, slightly tarnished, and all she had left from a mother she never knew. Miles away, in a high-rise overlooking the city, billionaire tech mogul Olivia Reed stood at the window of her office, lost in thought. Powerful, poised, and known for her no-nonsense approach to life and business, she carried one regret that never left her heart: the baby she was forced to give up decades ago. Not a day passed that she didn't wonder where her daughter was, what kind of life she had, or if she would even recognize her. Fate had its own plans. Later that week, Olivia stepped into a small, out-of-the-way diner while scouting locations for a community project. She had no intention of staying long, but someone caught her eye. A young waitress, with gentle eyes and an air of quiet strength, moved gracefully through the room. And then Olivia saw it. The pendant, that pendant. Her breath caught in her throat. She had given one just like it to her baby, wrapped in a blanket and a goodbye she never meant. Her world tilted in that moment, and time seemed to stop. But she couldn't be sure. Not yet. As Clara poured coffee and smiled politely, unaware of the eyes watching her so closely, Olivia sat frozen, heart pounding. Could this girl really be her long-lost daughter? And if so, how had life brought them back together, here, in a place neither of them ever expected? And just like that, everything changed. Olivia stayed seated in that booth much longer than she planned, her mind racing as she watched the young waitress move around the diner. She didn't say anything, how could she? She didn't even know if what she was thinking was possible. It had been over 20 years. She'd searched before, hired people, followed leads that led nowhere. And now, just by chance, she walks into a random diner and sees a pendant she hadn't laid eyes on since the day she left the hospital. It felt impossible, but something deep inside her said it was real. Clara, meanwhile, was used to customers staring. Some were just rude, others curious about her quiet nature. She didn't mind. She was there to work, save money, and maybe one day go to nursing school. She didn't have time for distractions, especially not mysterious women in tailored coats who kept glancing at her necklace like it held a secret. What Clara didn't know was that the pendant had once been part of a matching set. Olivia still kept the other half in a small velvet box, tucked away in the back of a drawer she couldn't bear to open. Seeing it now, out in the open on this stranger's chest, it was like time had looped in on itself. Olivia wanted to ask. She wanted to speak, to come right out and say it. But fear held her in place. What if she was wrong? What if she shattered this girl's world for nothing? Or worse, what if she was right, and the truth opened wounds neither of them were ready to face? As Clara refilled her coffee, their eyes met for a brief moment. Something flickered, familiar yet distant. Olivia offered a tight smile. Clara nodded politely and moved on, unaware that her life might never be the same. Outside, the clouds thickened, the air heavier. Olivia sat there, hands wrapped around the coffee cup, heart bracing itself. The pendant was just the beginning. Olivia returned to the diner the next morning, and the next. Each visit felt like peeling back a layer she didn't know existed. She asked the hostess for Clara's section without making it obvious. She watched how Clara moved, how she smiled at older customers and spoke gently to the kid who dropped his soda. Everything about her seemed familiar, though Olivia couldn't tell if it was memory or hope playing tricks on her. She was a billionaire used to having answers at her fingertips, yet this was personal, deep, and terrifying. Clara noticed the woman coming in again. Not in a suspicious way, just curious. She didn't seem like someone from around here. Her clothes were expensive, her nails clean, her watch quietly worth more than the diner made in a week. But she always ordered the same thing: black coffee, sourdough toast, and stayed longer than necessary. Clara asked if she was in town on business. Olivia just smiled and said something vague about looking into real estate. Clara didn't push. She had enough on her plate. Outside of work, Clara's life was quiet but heavy. Rent was overdue, her second job just cut her hours, and she had a stack of medical bills from her late adoptive mother's illness that never seemed to shrink. She'd always wondered about her birth mother, but no one ever told her much. Just that she was left at the hospital with a silver pendant and no note. She'd held onto that necklace ever since. It felt like the only connection to a life she never knew. Meanwhile, Olivia reached out to her private investigator. Discreetly, she gave Clara's name and the diner's location, hoping for answers she was scared to hear. She didn't want to confront Clara until she was sure, but each day made it harder to wait. The tension between what Olivia knew in her heart and what she could prove in reality pulled tighter, and Clara, unknowingly at the center of it all, was about to find herself in a story more complicated than anything she imagined. A week passed, and Olivia hadn't missed a single morning at the diner. Each visit chipped away at her patience. The investigator had promised results soon, but soon wasn't fast enough. Every time she saw Clara, her instincts screamed louder. The way she tucked her hair behind her ear, the way she always touched the pendant when she was nervous. It mirrored habits Olivia had herself. It was no longer a question of if, but how to tell her, and more importantly, when. Clara started to feel something wasn't right. Not in a threatening way, but there was a weight in the air when the woman, Olivia, walked in. Clara didn't even know her name. She never gave it, just smiled and paid in cash. But the look in her eyes was no longer casual. It was deep, searching, almost sorrowful. Clara couldn't explain it, but it lingered in her mind long after her shift ended. Then one afternoon, just as the lunch rush was ending, Clara walked outside to take out the trash and nearly bumped into Olivia, who was standing near the alley behind the diner. She looked startled, almost guilty, like she hadn't meant to be caught there. Clara gave a hesitant laugh, but Olivia didn't laugh back. She just stared at the pendant around Clara's neck. Her lips parted like she was about to speak, but nothing came out. "Are you okay?" Clara asked, her tone cautious. Olivia forced a smile. "Yes, just thinking. Sorry." That night, Clara found an envelope under her tip jar. No name, no note, just an address and a photo. It was a picture of a younger Olivia, holding a newborn wrapped in a soft blanket. Around the baby's neck hung a tiny silver pendant, the same one Clara wore every day. Clara's hands trembled as she stared at the photo, confusion spinning into panic. Why would a stranger have this? What did it mean? And why now? She had no answers, just questions that cut deep, and one unshakable feeling in her chest. Her whole life was about to change. Clara sat on the edge of her twin mattress, the photo still in her lap, the pendant clutched tightly in her fist. Her heart pounded with questions, the kind that didn't come with easy answers. Why had this mysterious woman given her the photo? Why not just talk to her? Was this real or some strange, elaborate mistake? Part of her wanted to ignore it, throw the picture away, and forget she ever saw it. But something deeper, a longing she never admitted out loud, kept her rooted to that spot. The next day, Clara returned to work as usual, but nothing felt normal. Olivia didn't come in that morning, which only added to the weight pressing down on her. Then, in the middle of her shift, a sharply dressed man in a suit walked into the diner. He didn't sit or order anything. He walked straight up to Clara and asked her name. She hesitated before answering. Then he handed her a business card. "She'd like to meet," he said. "She didn't mean to scare you. She just wasn't ready." Before Clara could ask who she was, he was gone. She looked down at the card. Olivia Reed, CEO. One of the most powerful women in the country. Clara stared, stunned. Her mind reeled. Was this really happening? But the moment was shattered when her manager called her into the back office, face grim. Someone had sent in a complaint, an anonymous one, claiming Clara was stealing tips and harassing customers. None of it was true, but the manager said they had no choice. She was suspended pending review. Clara was speechless. She knew she'd done nothing wrong. But the timing, it felt deliberate. Like someone wanted her quiet, out of sight, away from that pendant, away from Olivia. Now, not only was her world shifting from a possible family revelation, her entire livelihood was at risk. She didn't know whether to run toward the truth or protect herself from the chaos it was bringing. Either way, the mystery was far from over. Clara stood outside the tall glass building downtown, Olivia's business card clenched in her hand. Her stomach twisted with doubt, but she had to know the truth. The elevator ride to the top floor felt endless. When the doors opened, Olivia was already waiting. Not in her usual composed way, but nervously, like she'd been pacing for hours. Their eyes met, and the air between them filled with everything unspoken. "I'm sorry for the photo," Olivia began. "I didn't know how else to tell you." Clara's voice was barely above a whisper. "Is it real?" Olivia nodded slowly. "I've been searching for you since the day you were taken. You weren't left behind, you were stolen. There was a cover-up at the hospital, a nurse involved. I thought you were gone forever, until I saw that pendant." Clara's breath caught. It was too much to take in, yet it explained everything. The photo, the strange man, even the fake complaint that got her suspended. Someone didn't want them to connect. Olivia handed Clara a folder, documents, DNA results, newspaper clippings from 2 decades ago. Everything pointed to one chilling truth. But just as relief began to wash over Clara, Olivia's assistant rushed in, phone in hand. "We have a problem," she said. "The woman who adopted Clara, she wasn't just a nurse. She was part of a larger scheme, selling newborns. She's resurfaced and knows Clara is here." Clara's face went pale. The woman she thought of as her adoptive mother had always been kind, or so she believed. But now everything about her past felt tainted. Olivia turned to Clara, her voice firm. "You're safe now, but this isn't over, and I won't let anyone hurt you again." Tears welled up in Clara's eyes. The woman she thought she'd never meet was real, and so was the danger still hiding in her past. The truth had brought them together, but it had also awakened enemies neither of them saw coming. In the weeks that followed, Clara's world transformed in ways she never imagined. She moved out of her small apartment and into a quiet, secure home arranged by Olivia. It wasn't about luxury, it was about safety. The investigation into the illegal adoption ring gained traction quickly, and with Olivia's resources, the authorities were able to trace back years of missing children. Clara's adoptive mother was taken into custody, and though the betrayal hurt deeply, Clara knew she couldn't hold on to the past as she wanted peace in her future. Olivia and Clara spent hours talking, sometimes about the lost years, sometimes just about favorite foods or childhood memories they never got to share. There were tears, laughter, and plenty of awkward pauses. But through it all, they were slowly becoming what they were always meant to be, family. Olivia had all the money in the world, but it was clear that reconnecting with her daughter meant more to her than any business deal or billionaire title. Clara, too, began to see herself differently. She wasn't just the waitress who served coffee with a tired smile. She was someone's daughter. Someone who had been missed and searched for. She enrolled in night classes, supported by Olivia, not because she was told to, but because she wanted to start building a future she chose for herself. One afternoon, they sat together on a bench outside the city courthouse, the case officially closed. Clara looked at Olivia and smiled. "I always thought my life was small, like nothing I did really mattered. But I think it all led me here." Olivia squeezed her hand. "You mattered before I found you. You just didn't know how much." Their journey had been painful, complicated, and full of questions, but in the end, the pendant wasn't just a clue. It was a promise. That love, even when lost, can find its way back. and sometimes it takes the most unexpected moment to change everything forever.